Hey everybody, Adam here with eTrailer. Today we're doing some water pumps. Specifically, we're taking a look at the Seaflo RV Water Pump. Odds are you are replacing the pump or just upgrading. So this one will be an upgrade just because it's going to pump 5.5 gallons per minute, which is the highest one that we carry. And it is going to have about 60 PSI, which is a whole lot. It's a 12 volt system, so it's just plug and play from the one that we just replaced before. I say it's an upgrade, but this is mainly for larger RVs and campers. It can feed up to 6 fixtures, and a fixture means wherever the water comes out, right? So in ours, we only have 2 sinks, a shower, and a toilet, and you can kind of see once it kicks on, we have this pulsing. So it's really trying to keep that 60 PSI mark. So whenever you see this pulsing, it's just the motor trying to regulate that pressure. It has low pressure, it wants to get up to 60 PSI. So if you're not really worried about the sputter, you just want a bunch of water to come through, this is gonna be for you. Pushes a lot of water and you're not gonna feel any fluctuations if someone's doing dishes and you're taking the shower. Sometimes when someone does dishes or is running that sink and you're in the shower, you'll kind of see that pressure kind of drop, but it really does pulsate throughout the whole entire thing. So if we go to this sink over here, it's going to do the same exact thing as it starts to run. It's not really as bad, but you can kind of see how it can get kind of annoying. But the pressure is really good. It flows a lot of water, but I was expecting this to be the most pressure out of everything. It's the highest PSI, but when you turn it on, it does get up there. That's what we're kind of using to measure all this out. But I really did see pretty much that same amount of pressure with a 3 gallon per minute and a 45 PSI. The 55 PSI was the best out of all of them, but I just thought 60 would do a little bit more. So if it is an upgrade for you, it's honestly not the best upgrade for this RV. You know, if you do have a lot of different fixtures on a bigger RV, definitely go with that one because it's the biggest one. But for this specific RV, I think the smaller one really does the best. One thing is it is kind of loud compared to the other ones, but it's just what you get if you go with the bigger pump. The owner of this camper wanted more water pressure in the shower, so we figured we'd give him the bigger pump. It was a little bit too big for what this is, but if it was me, after installing all these different pumps, if I wanted more shower pressure, I don't really think I need the 5.5 gallon per minute. I really don't. I think that the 3 gallon per minute, 55 PSI is gonna be the best, which is actually this Hydromax right here. Gets the best pressure, but it's a little bit louder, but not as loud as this pump. With the Seaflo 3 gallons per minute, this one has about 45 PSI, has decent pressure, but it's a lot quieter. And another thing you need to think about, if you aren't hooked up to city water with a 5.5 gallon pump, you're gonna run through your water tank almost twice as fast as a 3 gallon per minute pump. So it's something you kind of want to think about, especially if you're gonna be out and about with no water hookup. The 5.5 gallon per minute Seaflo, as you see here, is self-priming. If you guys are buying a water pump on our site, they're all self-priming. So you don't have to worry about doing that. You just need to hook it up, make sure there's water in your tank, of course, and then just turn it on and you don't have to do anything. If you want to know if yours is self-priming, if you're not going with us, you just got to turn it on, and if the water gets to it, great. But in my opinion, just get one that's self-priming. It'll save you a lot of time and hassle. It's just one more thing you don't have to do. Regardless of what size pump you go with, whether you go with the big boy, the 5.5, or just a normal 3 gallon per minute pump, they're all really going to install the same if it's a 12 volt system. So stick around, we're going to show you how we hooked all this up. If you're performing maintenance, maybe just fixing something or just replacing your whole entire water pump, you got to find out where it is. What I found best to do is run it and see if you can hear it. We want to put it a little bit farther away from the kitchen sink because typically it's around that area. So I'm going to go in the bathroom here, turn on the pump, and then run a little bit of water to see. So I don't know if you can hear that, but that is what we really want to kind of figure out exactly where it's at. They're typically near the kitchen. So kind of start there, and you really got to use your ears to really find out where it's at. Usually it's behind a weird hidden little panel. So we were following the sound. We thought it was right next to the hot water heater, but it wasn't. It was actually over here, and again, right next to the sink. So step one, find the pump, check. Before we do the swap, we want to see what we're working with before, just to give us a base to see if we're increasing our pressure. So let me turn this pump on. So let's turn this on. And a decent amount of pressure. It almost goes up to the vent, not really, but not the best. Now for the sinks actually have a decent amount of pressure. Definitely enough to clean some dishes, but the problem really is in the shower. That's what we're really trying to solve here, and that's why we're really replacing this pump. Before we do anything to the pump, we need to cut power. You can do it a bunch of different ways. You can just go and pull a fuse. You can maybe just flip a little breaker on the inside, but what I'm doing, just to make sure everything doesn't have power, just in case, is we do have a battery shut off. So I'm just gonna turn that off, just to make sure that there's no power running that pump whatsoever. To get all the water out of the lines, if you have a valve like this, it's gonna be very, very easy. So all we gotta do with this valve is just kind of turn it like this. It's gonna cut off the water source, and then it's gonna bring it down to this tube, which is just gonna suck in air. But if you don't have one in here, we do have one. So if you are replacing your pump, I highly suggest doing it. But if you don't have one on your pump and you need to take it out right now, just make sure to have a couple little bit of towels and stuff. You'll have a little bit of water trying to come back, but we don't have to worry about that. So now that I turned that valve, it's gonna be taking in air from this tube. So now all we really need to do is turn on the faucet and let it run. And it's gonna take a little bit of time, but you'll see some air pockets start to come through. Pressure is gonna go down. It's gonna start spitting for a while. I'm just gonna let this run for a little bit to get all that air out. And in a little bit, yeah, see all that air. So it's gonna do this for a little bit. Just let it run until basically nothing comes out but air. It's a little tough to see in there. It's kind of a small space, so hopefully we get it for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and just take this thing off the ground. There's just 4 different screws, just so it's gonna be a little bit easier for me to access all the different hoses and such. So it is extremely tight in here, but basically what I'm gonna do over here, this little white, little 90 degree, there's just a little nut on there. I'm just gonna loosen that and that'll come off. And then on this side, I'm gonna loosen this just because our new pump does come with this piece. So I'm gonna disconnect this and that side, and then of course cut the wires. But super, super tight, so I need to get 2 hands in there to do it. And once all of our connections are cut and all the wires are disconnected, this whole thing should come right out. Well, here we go. So let's prepare this to be installed. We want to take these caps off. It helps if you just don't really want to pull these off. You just kind of thread them. It's not going to hurt it, but they are threaded on the inside, so it's just kind of easier to do it that way. Lefty-loosey. So once we do that, we do want to make sure this is going to make a nice seal. So you can throw those away. Any type of water fitting, we do want to have some thread tape. And all you want to do with this is just think about how you're threading it on. So we're going to be threading it on like this. So I want to start like this, just because then when I'm tightening it down, it's not going to catch that lip. So once you go around it once, you can pull a little bit tighter. Now that it won't slide off, I just do 2 rounds like that. And then just kind of run your fingers over it, make sure those threads kind of start to show through a little bit, just so it doesn't move. Do the same thing for the other side, same deal. So wrap it around. And you can use as much as you really want with this stuff, because when you buy one of these from us, you get a lot with it, so there's a lot left over. We've done like 4 or 5 pumps in the last couple days, and we're using the same amount of tape, so you can use this for any other type of things you need to. So now that that's done, there are a couple things that come with the kit. These two, just depending on your setup, you can use these, but we have it set up to where we just have something threading into the side, so we're not going to use these. You can if you want, we're not going to. Then you want to really look at the arrows. So arrows are going this way, so this is where it's coming out, and the water is going to go in on this side, and you want to have the filter on that side so it filters it before it hits the pump. I just put it on here just so I don't have to do it down there, because it's really tight down there. The less I have to do down there, the better. And then with this pump, this is pretty much specific just to the 5.5. You notice the mounting bracket here. It's a little bit different than the one we have, but the holes will line up. So all I really need to do is just move these back a little bit, and I can use the holes that we used, that the pump earlier used, so it'll line up properly. And another thing, it doesn't come with mounting hardware, so just use the one that came with the pump you're taking off. So all you have to do to move these rubber guys, just pull them out. Might need a tool or something, but you just pull them out like that, and then put it back in on the one that you want. I am going to put this little valve on separately, just because the hose is connected. I don't feel like taking that hose off. It's going to be a little bit easier to do outside the little tiny space I got to work with. So I'm going to do that. I suggest you do it too, if the space is just as small as what we got. So now I'm pretty much ready to rip. I'm just going to put it back to where we have it, or we had our old one. And again, I know I keep saying it, but it's so tight in here. So basically all I'm going to do is just connect our wires and connect all of our hose fittings, and then we're good to go. Now everything's installed, everything's hooked up, we just need to turn on power. But one thing, it does come with a 2-pole flat connector, so you can do two things. You can either just cut this and then hardwire it to your wires, or you can go ahead and just grab a Hopkins 2-pole flat and cut it in half, and then use that, and then use some heat shrink butt connectors. I'm just using these wire nuts right now just because we were doing a lot of water pumps today, and as you can see, it just comes off every once in a while. So definitely use some heat shrink butt connectors, and we do have that and the 2-pole flat on our website. So just add that to your cart whenever you buy your pump. Now that we are good, we can go ahead and flip the switch and give everything power again. Well, the power's on, but I have one more switch that just puts power to the pump. So I'm gonna flip that. Let's see if we hear it. Okay, I do hear it a little bit. Definitely initially it's a little bit louder than the 3 gallons per minute, but I figured that just because this is a 5.5 gallon a minute pump. But we do want to make sure there's no leaks or anything, and I don't see anything here. The only ones we really need to make sure of, there's one there, one here, and one there. Those are the only ones I messed with, so I think we're good there. But now we want to get all the air out of the line. So I'll start with the closest faucet. Okay, so we're good there. And now we'll do the same exact thing for the bathroom sink. All right, close that up. And now the shower. I don't want to get wet, so let's do that. So now we're good. We have no air in the lines. Everything is connected properly. We have no leaks, so we can go ahead and pretty much cover this thing up and be on our way. So that'll pretty much do it for a look at the Seaflo freshwater RV pump.